This is your before and after story. Instead of imagining a rewarding career in medical imaging, Southeastern College can actually take you there. Prepare for a career in ultrasound, radiology, and X-ray technology with hands-on specialized training, simulations, and real-life experience with the latest imaging technology. You'll be ready to play a vital role on any healthcare team. Transform your life by helping others. Southeastern College. Your future is bright. Visit scc.edu to get started.
Today's episode is brought to you by Achieve Unite, a global leader in leadership development, business acceleration, and trusted partnerships. Achieve Unite combines deep expertise, data analytics, and AI to help companies accelerate revenue, control costs, elevate talent, and build trust. They're more than advisors. They deliver results with their proven three-part approach: talent development, ecosystem strategy, and profitable growth programs. Whether you're strengthening alliances, enhancing internal systems, or optimizing your partner ecosystem, Achieve Unite is the partner you need for success. Are you a CX leader who's ready to get executive buy-in and measurable results? The Trusted Guide Roadmap Masterclass is back and registration is now open. We share ROI models and walk you through proven frameworks to drive successful change. But what distinguishes this course is the focus on leading change by becoming a trusted guide. Seats are limited and the next session starts February 12th. Don't wait. Visit empoweredcx.com to secure your spot today. Welcome to the Delighted Customers Podcast. I am so glad you're here. We challenge conventional thinking about customer experience because I believe that improving experiences isn't just good for business. It's a powerful way to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. Each week, we feature thought-provoking conversations with industry thought leaders from a variety of backgrounds, offering unique perspectives and actionable insights. Get ready to sharpen your leadership and transform your approach to customer experience. Let's dive in. All right. Well, today's guest comes all the way from Southern California. I am so excited to introduce Brad Smith, CCXP. Brad's had the privilege of leading organizations in their customer-centric transformation in some really cool companies. He was at Symantec, he was at Yahoo, and then he was at Sage as their CCO/CMO. Brad and I had the pleasure of serving together on the CXPA board of directors. And he and I recently got into a conversation around sort of the future of customer experience management. And he got into this topic that I said, you know what, we got to have him on the show. Share this information. This can't be a secret. So Brad, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. It's great to be with you. And, I think impromptu CXPA board meeting alumni sessions are always a good idea. So happy to be here.
Today, we're going to talk about leveraging the CX Toolkit. You and I got into this conversation. You started talking to me about these different tools that you use and apply them to customer experience management. So before we get into what the tools are and what you've done with them, can we level set for the audience when you say using tools as a toolkit? What are we talking about?
Yeah. I mean, more precisely, a set of techniques and methodologies, perspectives, points of views, belief systems, walking in to a situation and really trying to understand what's happening inside of this company from a new perspective, primarily from the point of view of the customers outside in, as well as the employees, again, a little bit outside in, right? People are trying to do things with this technology that's not designed for, and that's why they're running into problems. What if we talk to each other? So seeing the whole company from that point of view is something that, if you're a CX professional, you go to a Starbucks, you see the entire life cycle. You go to Disney, you see the entire life cycle, right? And so that point of view is a very powerful asset in my toolkit. So think of it as Boy Scout merit badges. Think of it as, Batman utility belt. I mean, these are different things that we pull out to try to assess and understand both why things are the way they are today and where is their trapped or hidden value.
Okay, so let's double click on the hidden value piece, Brad. What is it that should get the attention of a CEO or a C-suite when we're talking? What's the big deal?
Sure thing. I believe that, we've got four primary buckets of value, right? We've got bad customer experience, bad employee experience. It costs us money. It triggers reuse. It triggers, rework. It triggers warranty calls. It triggers calls to the contact center. It triggers employee attrition. So there's a margin cost problem with friction that's in the system, right? Somebody often through organic, natural factors, merger and acquisitions, years of traditions, a strong leader back in the day, whatever, there's a way service happens across that customer lifecycle. And is it by design? Is it operating properly? Is there even a blueprint or architect behind it? Oftentimes it's not. It's the generation who led to the generation who hired me, and I'm just doing stuff the way I was told to do it. But there's no thoughtfulness across, the expanse of it all, right? So cost and margin, that's hidden value right there. The second thing, of course, is customer churn and loss of revenue. But the loss of revenue is also loss of wallet share. It's loss of year-over-year spend. It's loss of, if you're selling, a subscription model, and I used to buy 7 items, now I only have 5, whatever it might be. So loss of revenue, revenue protection, if you will, is a big value driver. And then revenue acceleration, right? Happy customers buy more. Customers that believe in us, want to work with us, want to do more with us, right? And then finally, positive brand awareness in the marketplace. And positive brand awareness might sound like the fluffiest of them all, but through positive brand awareness, you attract like-minded companies for merger and acquisitions, for sponsorships, for bundling. It's easier to attract employees. It's easier to attract customers. You pay less for your massive advertising spend to get awareness in the marketplace. And brand equity, in fact, is one of the, if it was sitting on a balance sheet, it would be worth 3x whatever your annualized revenue is. So that's where the value is hidden. Oftentimes, an ism that I like to use, one of my toolkits, wherever there's a lot of activity, there is value. Okay, so wherever you see a huge amount of traffic, customer traffic, prospect traffic, employee traffic, there's value there. It's a sure-tailed sign. Think of it almost like the watering hole in the Serengeti Plains, right? There's a reason why people keep going there. The question, though, we have to unlock is this value realization? Are they going there to realize value, to gain value, to get value, to exchange value? Or is it value erosion and they're seeking relief? So why is the volume there? And finally, is the volume there by design? Is this our intended business model? Working in customer support and service through multiple decades, well, let's turn off the phones. Well, then we get slammed in email. Well, let's turn off the email. Well, then we get slammed on online case generation. Well, so it's a pressure system, and customers are seeking relief, and so that's where the value is. So using my customer experience toolkits to find, diagnose, and unlock value is a big part of what I do. And some of those toolkits are things like, what's our CX North Star? What's our intended brand promise that we want people to feel every time there's an interaction? Because every time we have an interaction, we're generating a memory. And those memories add up to how we feel about a particular brand or service. Empathy maps, to really understand at a persona level, who is it that we're servicing? What are their needs? What are their gains that they're desiring to do, the jobs they want to get done, the pain points they're trying to hold back? Classic value maps where we track, for every interaction that occurs, there's a tangible deliverable, which is, I pay you $5, you give me an icy cold glass of lemonade, but then the intangible, how it made me feel. And I might see that through customer surveys, employee surveys. Journey maps, of course, finding your pain points, making sure we can prioritize those pain points into actionable, boulders, big rocks, little pebbles, using weighted indexes to kind of score this pain point against how badly it impacted our brand promise, as well as our business goals. And then just standing up this kind of listen, act, measure cadence of running a proper CX program, right? So there's a centralized authority, you've got a CX council, you've got your indicators. So those are all the sorts of things that I kind of talk about when I talk about a CX toolkit.
Yeah. So if I could, double click on a couple of things you said. One is where there is activity, there's value, meaning where there's a high volume of activity. I guess we're talking really about on the customer interaction side, not just internally. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, can you share an example of a situation where you experienced that with the client, where there was a lot of activity, and what was the problem? What was the situation? What was the solution?
Sure. So one of my clients was AARP, and we looked at AARP's contact center. And AARP is the American Association of Retired Persons. It's mostly a North American organization focused on people 55 and above.
50.
They were getting
50 and above.
50 and above, 50-ish, right? But it's open to everybody. Everybody should join AARP. Great discounts, lovely organization, love it. We looked at their contact center, and we looked at the inbound call volume, right? And so they service, as far as channels go, at a physical letter mail channel, which is by far the most unique thing I've ever seen in my life. But given AARP and a lot of members are 80 years old, people like to write letters. That's good. Mm-hmm. Email, chat, phone, right? So all the basics, and then a little bit of a self-help system that when I started working with them, they didn't really have much there. We looked at the call drivers by contact type, right? And we scored them by, is this a value realization call or is this a value erosion call? Are people seeking extra value? They're wanting to learn and do more with us. They're wanting to explore things, or is it value erosion? Something's broken. They just can't get past go, right? And the top call drivers is almost always a power curve. It's always 80-20, sometimes 90-10, in fact, right? And so 25 call drivers made up over 75% of all their volume across multiple channels. And of the top 25, 11 were value erosion. And of the 11, 2 were tightly correlated with each other. And it had everything to do with not receiving their credentials upon joining. And there's a lag in the system, and there's a lag to print the cards, and there's a lag to get your Chotskys. And that lag wasn't advertised. There was no transparency. Worse yet, if you register with a check or you register online, you don't get an immediate acknowledgement of your membership has been, made. You don't get a faux copy of your card. There is no electronic digital download. This is all circa 2016, right? Things have been sorted out by now. But the volume of that traffic cost a huge amount of money. Okay? But more importantly, their 50 to 54-year-old cohort of first-year joiners, at that time, their membership renewal rates were down to 42%. So only 42% of that cohort was actually renewing for year 2.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
And the cost to join is only $16. So the thing you got to ask yourself is, how is it we weren't able to translate or communicate or deliver $16 worth of value in a whole year?
Right.
Right? Like, what is missing here? And part of the big aha is that the place had been run on autopilot for a long, long time. And, when you look at people turning 50 in 2016, they're Gen X. They kind of invented the internet. They're insanely digitally savvy. So to have such an extraordinarily paper, manual, fill your mailbox full of mail kind of experience, and to go days, sometimes weeks before you get the acknowledgement that my membership took and I have the card and now I can put it to good use. That lag in time is wholly unacceptable to a digitally savvy citizen of the world 2016. And so part of that drop-off rate on the renewals was the get to know you experience, the honeymoon experience, the most important first 90 days of life of any customer. Like, that's where you imprint all the right behaviors. That's where you reinforce why I bought this thing, why I want to join this thing, why I'm proud to be a part of this thing. That's where you should get, I don't know, let's say $34 worth of value within the first 6 weeks. I don't know, let's go crazy. $120 worth of value realization by the 90-day mark. But if I'm 6 weeks in, still confused as to whether or not I actually joined and what my membership and rights are and what my welcome package, that's a full-out fail. So we had value erosion on the back side because renewals. We had value erosion on the front side because the cost to serve. And then the customer experience was mediocre at best. The agents had no ability to instantly remedy the problem, even though in this day and age, I should be able to push you a digital card and set you up. I should be able to push a digital welcome package and set you up. It ought to be like that. And it was not. And because AARP is a big organization, different departments, different teams, there was a whole team dedicated on customer service, a different team dedicated on new membership, a different team dedicated on membership welcome. And based on their operational metrics, all the lights were green. Everything was great. Service team was excited. They were servicing everything within their SLAs. They didn't really track resolution, by the way. They just tracked, did I take the call within the right amount of time? The membership team was never held accountable for renewals because that's a different team's responsibility. And
you
so
know
all
what's
this
funny
trap
about
value.
Trap value that you unlocked. Hey, I had the chance earlier in my career in another lifetime. AARP was a client of mine, and so I was down there on 601 North East Street in Northwest
Beautiful
DC.
building, incredible, yeah.
Yeah, and there was one cafeteria. So those same people, all those departments, were probably having lunch in the same cafeteria, but they couldn't.
Absolutely.
The silo,
and they're all like, hey, are you hitting your KPI? I am. Bonus for both of us. High five.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, there
This
you
is
go.
great. Meanwhile, and this is unique to AARP, you have a huge attrition problem with AARP because God's calling home people on the backside of that cohort. So you're losing people on the older age cohorts naturally, and you're losing people on the front end. And so that was the problem we got to tackle and solved it quite nicely. Things are much, much, much better there now. But you had all the money in the world to fix every one of these problems. You just didn't realize it because nobody's looking at the overall balance sheet across a 14-month period of time.
Yeah, you're right. It's such a typical example of what you described, how the silos get erected over time and how the KPIs are in conflict with the customer's best interest, and how, like you said, they're hidden, either costs that are burdening the system or lost opportunities. I mean, a 42% renewal drop-off rate is horrible for almost any business, but in a business like this, with such a low cost to entry for the customer, it just makes you shake your head.
The all-in marketing cost to gain a new subscriber was, back of the napkin, $72.
Yeah.
So theoretically, to break even, I've got to keep you for 5 years.
Yeah. Right.
But that's somebody else's budget. That's somebody else's budget. We don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great example. Hey, the other thing I wanted to follow up with you on what you said earlier was value mapping. because that's not something I'm familiar with. I did all the other kinds of maps, empathy map, journey mapping, but business process mapping. But tell me a little bit about what that is and how it's used.
Sure. Value mapping is a great way to turn on a lot of light bulbs. Okay. So one of the things I did is I became a member and I date time stamped every communication I received in the first 9 months of membership. And I cataloged those things, emails, texts, and physical mail. So you send me this thing about Medicare. All right. I'm at the time I was literally, I think, 54, 55 years old. Right. So I'm 10 years out from Medicare. Maybe it would be interesting if my mom needed it, but it's clearly not for me. So I open up this email, and in the email is, because the other thing they love to do is pile dense emails together. So inside of a single email, there might be 14 clickable targets that are going to send me to a destination, right? So the value map here is you sent me this dense thing that has 14 targets of call to actions. And if I click into any of these targets, it starts a digital journey for me. My expectation of what I'm going to see when I click into that target is based on my personal knowledge, my bias of being a human being on the planet for so long, and whatever, jazzy words you had in the email. But where I land and what I see, there's a whole nother set of call to actions, right? So this whole tangibility of, you told me if I click into this, I will get a AMC discounted movie for the month of March. And where is it? And I click into the link, it sends me to a landing page. The landing page clicks me over to an AMC page, which clicks me into a Join Now page, which clicks me into a membership, which I have to fill in, which clicks me into put in my AARP number, which clicks me into a special discount, which clicks me into a terms and conditions, which I come to find out I don't get to watch premium movies. I get to watch movies that have been in the theater for 4 weeks, and I can only watch those movies in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your tangible value. How many clicks to get to the payload? And where I started to where I ended was the tangibility of, like, if I had known that, would I had ever clicked into the first link, right? That's your tangible side. The intangible side is how it made me feel. And I just wasted 90 seconds telling you this story. I'm sure your audience and yourself, you're just as exhausted as I was traversing through all these hoops. And so, the next time I get an AARP email with 14 clickable links, what behavior is being reinforced by that value proposition, right? Oh, well, last time I did that, it cost me 14 minutes of my life. And I ended up not signing up because it was emotionally ungratifying. So what they were doing and the volumes of emails they're pushing out, and again, every department and division has their own portfolio of messages they want to send out, and they're all in competition of each other. Because if you look at my inbox, right, I see like 7 different types of emails from 7 different types of AARP addresses, each thick with call to actions. You are absolutely going out of your way to negatively reinforce the idea of AARP is not for me. Why would I ever renew? So when, where, how, and why. Where's your call to actions? What's the tangible value exchange? How will it make us feel as we do it, right? Now, if you get service blueprints right, if you get your CX North Star right, if you get your brand promises right, then you would ensure every digital journey is, pick a simple Amazon rule. Yahoo had the same rule, 3 clicks, 3 minutes, $3, right? It's like there's a minimum viable experience that has to be on the other side of that click. The other thing I did through journey mapping was to a product manager, I forced them to sit down and click through and feel what this feels like. I said, how many decisions did you just have to make to finally get that AMC discount movie ticket? And were you prepared and ready to take those decisions? And could you shorten that? Could you make it easier? Could you make it simple? Why are you even offering this if it causes so much Well, our seniors love it. They probably do if it just came in the mail, activate it that way versus having, and so, why we do the things we do, what do we expect the value to be, what's the tangible on both sides, and then how does it make us feel, and does that feeling, that intangible description, can it be heard in our customer surveys, can it be heard in our employee surveys, and does it resonate with our brand promises, right? And so these are the simple tools I'm trying to use to help them see there's a path to value here, and it is a good idea. We've got to make the payload more explicit. We've got to be transparent about what the caveats are and make it gosh darn easy. Or don't do it. It's a far better thing not to do it. Send out half the number of emails, and that way you won't create this bias in me of, geez, another thick email full of clicks that I don't want to click.
So you did a great job explaining how it's used, but can you just explain what it is? What is a value map?
A value map is simply this, right? You're gonna have a point that you put onto a whiteboard, another point you're gonna have on a whiteboard. Okay? Sitting over this point think of it as a to from destination, but also think of it as two entities. The entity could be a customer on this point, and it could be a customer service agent on this point, or it could be a self-service kiosk on this point, or it could be, right? It's a destination, and there's an entity here, and there's an entity here. When these two entities interact, we want to track two things. We want to track which direction is it going. So if it's the AMC discount website, it's going to send the email here, and then I respond back, and there's a tangible call to action here, and over here I get the payload, right? So those are the first 2 points to map. The second thing is, how did it make our hero, our primary, feel? Like, what message was delivered through intangible? And so that feeling, sometimes we can assume. We can assume it, certainly if we do journey mapping. We could also ask a cohort of customers through, a customer review session, and we can also listen for it in our surveys. But another great way to hear that intangible is, what percent of success is it? For every 100 emails outbound, how many clickbacks do we get? And then of the clickbacks, how many people actually activate and get the card? And if that drop off is tiny or super, super, super small, my hunch is the intangible is really negative. It's a value erosion channel. It's not a value realization channel. If there's parity between the 2 points and the call to action is always followed through 80% of the time, then my hunch is it's a value realization intangible. And so what it gives us is a hypothesis to go off and investigate, and helps us find, friction points in a new and interesting and different way.
Got it.
So that's the mechanics of how you do value mapping.
Okay, so it's before you would actually assign a value to a stage and an experience for a customer.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And also having the team in the room. What was your intention here? What's your intended outcome here? What do you expect? What do you see? And I can't tell you how many times they're like, well, we were told we can't send 10,000 emails, so we packed in all the call to actions to only 5,000 emails. And, we fight for position to be on the top of the email versus below the fold. And, we're offering this thing because AMC asked us to offer this thing, so we got to offer this thing. Okay, great. But what was the intended experience? Yeah, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So how could you expect the customer to have a great experience when you weren't even sure of the outcome you wanted?
Right. And it's not on anyone's radar. Nobody's measuring this. Nobody's looking at those ratios of outbound to inbound to successful conversions to CSAT score correlation. Like there's no dashboards for anybody to see. So, everybody's just a dutiful soldier, putting bullets into the email machine gun and launching them at targets.
Yeah, not real effective. Brad, you shared a couple of really, I guess, great strategies for people to be thinking about. The first one was the idea of value realization versus value erosion, and you illustrated it through the AARP different channels that customers interact, particularly the onboarding process. And then you also just shared about the value map. And how we can use that to get an early signal or early warning signal of where we may be missing value, actually eroding value or missing value that we could be delivering. Are there any other strategies in the toolkit that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure we don't forget about?
I think one of the important ones is, what is your branded promise? What do you stand for? How do you want to be remembered? Without those brand promises that are kind of anchored in your North Star, how do you score an experience and say if it's on or off brand? Everybody could go for simple, everybody could go for easy, but that's not very, it doesn't distinguish you at all in the marketplace. It makes you, kind of a commodity, right? Or worse yet, non-memorable, right?
Yeah.
So, at Yahoo, it was safe, fun, and simple. Those were our 3 brand promises, right? Anything with Yahoo, Lordy, over 40 languages and dealing with people that are 8 years old and 80 years old, right? So an insane spectrum of human experience. Anything you do in Yahoo should feel safe. We should never put you in harm's way. We should protect you from those things. It ought to be simple, right? You don't have to call into support to figure it out. You just do it and it works. And, kind of fun and cheeky was our brand, right? So it ought to be enjoyable. But the thing that's great about those 3 words is it's teachable, it's trainable, it's measurable, and it can be part of a design blueprint. So any part of the highway we want to pull up and take a look at, we could ask ourselves, as we journey map this experience, as we listen to the customer feedback, did this feel safe? Green dots or red dots? Does this feel simple? Did it feel fun, right? And come to find out, there's never been a customer happier than the employee that served them. So if the employee experience isn't safe, fun, and simple, you're off to a hard start, right? Had Wells Fargo's brand promises been, we're pirates and we pillage and burn, that would have been really a true experience. It would have been exactly what I expected banking there. But, their brand said something, but their actions said something else. So, one of my rules of thumb, and it's a truism, right? Every organization's actions betray its intentions. So no matter what it says on the mission vision statement, no matter what it says on the employee handbook, no matter what it says on the Super Bowl commercial, its actions are going to betray its true intentions. And so if your intentions aren't driven strategically to a business plan that's governed by a CX North Star, that's going to cause a tremor in the force, and you're going to hit some clear air turbulence, and you might not hit your targets the way you expect to.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I've heard and maybe you've heard this phrase as well, that marketing develops or makes the brand promise and CX delivers on it. So
sure.
It would be hard to deliver on a fuzzy promise without a lot of tangibility and concreteness to it.
No, I 100% agree with you.
Well, Brad, it has been exciting, fascinating, insightful, and but we're going to have to land the plane here. And so I want to end the show with the same question we asked all our guests, which is, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Can it be a twofer?
Okay.
All right, twofer. The first advice would be, as I fell into customer experience, one of the most important things to always remember is, who's your number one customer? If you're a CX professional and you're working inside of a CX group as a part of a company, your number one customer is your CEO and your executive sponsor. So if you're not doing work that resonates with their sense of value, their sense of purpose, their sense of, what's a good return, you're doing it wrong. So keep your number one customer happy. And then the second thing would be I should have left corporate America way sooner than I did. I'm having it's so much fun to get to work with 4 or 5 customers at a time, really get into the weeds with them, really understand how their businesses are working, and then take all the different industries, all the different size businesses, and just use that as contrast to really understand, why is this thing stuck? Let's break it loose. Let's see what it's made of. So it's joyful work. It's fun. Gives me the ability to be a good dad to my teenage daughters. So I would have Brad, get out there, man. Come on, you're already 35. Why aren't you out there? Brad, you're 40. Get out there, right? So yeah, I think that would have been something I would tell myself.
Thank you, Brad. Brad, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for any reason, what would be the best way?
LinkedIn is always a surefire way to get a hold of me. So Bradford Thury Smith on LinkedIn, that's easy. And then also my website. If you Google Vector Business Navigation, you'll find me quite easily. And there's a contact me form right there. So I would love to shop anytime with anybody. And, CX is everyone's job. So it's not just a specialty if you have cool initials on the backside of your name. So I really hope people are leaning into this topic and want to do and learn more about it.
Brad Smith, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for your time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Delighted Customers podcast. It would mean so much if you would take a moment to subscribe. You can go to Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts, click on the plus sign or follow button, and that will ensure that you don't miss an episode, and it helps get the word out to others. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave a 5-star review. I look forward to seeing you back here next Thursday.